that's pretty straightforward.
Again, just a simple list of the current documentation forms we have related to each program.
Mhm.
Except under the first column, you're gonna have some that are required way before cash, is before the development agreement.
You'd have to have them, correct, you'd have to
Yeah.
have them in place in order to distribute funds
Eventually.
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 Like-
I don't think-
Developer's agreement itself would be one of the documents that would be
Absolutely.
required.
Okay.
Yeah.
Formal agreement.
Okay, any other items on 4? Then the next, was in the program matrix exhibit A. I did have that we were striking under reference to authority of village / CDA resolution line.
Do we need that section in general? Just delete reference to authority?
Doesn't
I
hurt.
didn't like the name of it, I had changed it, these are all, but I didn't wanna bring it up, I had, reference to authority or additional documentation granting authority.
You just put Wisconsin
It's just the
statute.
statute,
Yeah, it's just
right.
the statute, yeah.
I think there was one other thing that could go in that area, but it was like the statute, oh, I know what it was, cause the matrix, it's either a statute or the adopted program. That's really the two things that I had as. I don't think we need it, personally.
Is it helpful to have the reference to the statute number?
I don't think it hurts
I-
anything, but.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
okay, so then that stays.
Well, you could call the whole category, Wisconsin statute.
Yeah.
And then just say statute number is,
Yeah.
that's,
I think it's fine the way it
that's
is.
direct.
Yeah. And that's all, I think those are all the changes.
No, then
Oh.
the X's to words.
No.
X's.
No, I think we
decided not.
agreed that.
Oh, we did,
Yeah. Okay.
You want to discuss it?
No, I didn't.
So everybody agrees with those amendments discussed? Okay,
I only have one other footnote on the redevelopment large real estate projects. It was just a note saying that.
On the matrix,
Yeah,
right on the-
included in existing TIDs.
oh,
Just a definition of what we were talking about, cause
Do we cover it in the document?
you do, you say it somewhere else.
Oh, okay,
There is a
then-
reference. I just wanted to clarify, I don't remember who it was taken out from version 1 or 2. The reason I asked is, I think that's what, because these requirements that we're checking for the existing programs only really apply to projects that we funded through a TID. So if we funded some through the facade grant loan program, facade grant program, these X's, large redevelopment projects, some of them are not in the right spot. So it's good to just reference or define what projects we're talking about as large redevelopment projects that correlate with these X's. So for instance, but
That makes
for-
sense to me.
Yeah, because if some of the larger facade grants that we've given out for past projects, if we're considering those as large real estate projects, the X's wouldn't make sense anymore. Some of the
Right,
X's
and
would
we're
apply.
not.
We haven't considered them as that.
Right.
Okay, so it would be good just for, as we move forward, to then define a different category, to understand.
Which is what
yep, yep.
we've established, that we're gonna come back to do.
So no change on that then?
Okay.
That- Okay, so we have an amended,
Motion to approve. In a second.
so is that, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Document passes. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for all the.
Yeah, thanks,
All
Pete.
the work.
All right. Next item, bylaws and rules of procedure. So, as you will see in the packet, there was, and Pete, maybe you could probably provide a bit of history on this. There was a document started, a bylaws document started, a draft. You don't believe it was ever approved or adopted or anything like that?
No, I think,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and I was kinda surprised at how complete it was, cause it was fairly far along in the process, but it was included in your packet. And it's a long time ago, and it was a, initiative to clarify or be more specific about the CDA roles and responsibilities.
So staff included bylaws from other communities. You can see, I think, a fair amount of consistency across them, kind of a similar template to some degree. the-
I'm just wondering, because he was giving the history.
Well, essentially, we got busy with the project.
It's in the memo too.
Yeah, and it basically never got back on the main line. It got deferred a number of meetings, and then it got back on the main line, and that's probably a shame, because it would have helped us along the way. And I think it's great that that staff has brought this up.
So I think obviously it provides, in our interest, to continue to help define what we're doing, how we're doing it, under what authority we're doing it. I think this certainly makes sense. It also, I think, provides help village board to the CDA in terms of under what authority are we operating every day. So so staff is asking whether we, the CDA, would like to move forward with drafting bylaws for our consideration at the next meeting. Would that be a
Correct.
correct statement?
Yep.
Again, and they provided significant documentation for us sort of to get a sense for what did the prior CDAs work on, what have others worked on. You can see it's,
Yes, we're
So the idea really would take this as a starting point and overlay some of the changes that we've made in the time since, and staff would do that. And
yeah, I
then-
mean, I think the bylaws is a foundational.
It's a foundation, but the bylaws,
documentation.
but the bylaws, you know, there's certain things in the bylaws that are a little different than
Yes,
how
there'll be some points that we'll wanna discuss,
yeah.
change, and
Mhm.
consider. I would agree with that.
Unless staff considers it all. before it's
Yeah.
done.
Yep.
I'm a believer.
Can I make a
Show me yours,
suggestion?
we'll show you ours.
Yes,
That makes
yes.
okay. When I read over it, just for staff as before we vote, because I'm pretty sure we're probably gonna say yes. But when I read over it, there were some things, thank you for this information, this was very, very helpful. There's one piece of information that's not in here, which is our committee handbook, and the makeup of committees. So what I was concerned about is what I remember, it addresses for the Community Development Authority terms, member terms, the makeup of members, some of the duties. And I don't remember how that was adopted, but there is one more document that we have in place.
Are you talking about the handbook for all committees?
If there's
Or
something,
do you guys have a separate one?
I think it's that big one.
Oh, okay.
And I just don't wanna say it as
Okay,
certainty
good, 'cause I didn't
because
see
I
that.
have so many documents at home. But,
Yeah.
there is something out there that
Sure.
the village has adopted that defines what we consider, it's not very specific, I just wanna make sure there's nothing that conflicts.
Oh, sure, we can take a look at that.
Okay, and, the main things that I think might conflict, was to look at the member makeup, the experience required by law necessary, the terms required by law, which is the municipal law, and the election of officers. Specifically too, it's odd about the trustee appointments, the two trustee appointments. The municipal law says they're appointed for the term of their representation. And I think we've been doing it differently, so it's
Yeah,
something to
so
look at.
you have the option to be more restrictive than what
Right,
if you want to. So when we sit down as a staff and take a look at it, we're going to draft we're transitioning nicely into the next portion of the bylaws. If you're in agreement, we wanna hear from you if there's something that's clearly off, sticker that you see needs to be different, like,
Oh,
John had mentioned that we kind of go back and take a look at that before we sit down and draft. So if we would encapsulate what you're doing now, unless we hear from you otherwise. Again, for the starting point.
There was some little tweak we did when Peter was appointed as chair. It was a little bit different in the way we had like a next chair kind of designation.
Vice
Vice
chair.
chair.
No, we had
Oh, elect.
the chair-elect to get us kind of through a transition between, so I'll try and find what that is. It may or may not have bearing on this.
And likely not a bad, decision.
Sort of a
'Cause it's
succession
I think
planning.
it's really tough to kind of come into these roles and all of a sudden just be new on the group and all of a sudden,
Right,
oh, I'm chair, I mean, that's,
right.
um,
So we're trying to provide for that,
mhm.
plus the nuances between when we knew it was gonna be Peter, but he wasn't gonna take it over for, 9 months or
Yeah.
a year or whatever it was.
Okay.
The arm twisting wasn't quite done.
No.
I see,
We've got you
It
now.
was such a popular position, everybody wanted it. Right?
I'm sure it's a lifetime.
And,
And in my recollection is we made it a lifetime appointment.
Right.
Lifetime sentence.
Just to save you a little time, that public arts thing is no longer,
I was
That's
just
right, yeah.
gonna
There was-
Yeah,
suggest to
so
point
some of
out,
this we're gonna kind of go and clean, cause
what do you want us
respectfully, a lot of the documents that just Shorewood in general has put out are very lengthy, and I don't think that these need to be a novel. We just wanna keep things simple.
yeah.
And I understand that your group has had, a lot to talk about, but every group may not be that way. And so my approach is going to be, let's keep it simple, easily digestible to move forward. So if you do want something different, you should let me know.
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay.
So do you want that today? How would you like that information? Because there are things in here, like Mr. Pichu pointed out about the arts, I could name at least 6 more that I think are not
That were in the
current
draft.
practice. And that maybe you just, I don't know how you want that input.
Great, that was the next point of what I was trying
Yep.
to go for. Okay, so now that there's level of consensus that yes, we're gonna go back and draft. Then within, and we'll set a time frame out there, I'd like to give you like at least a week and a half. Give us your comments and feedback via email, you have the documents, and then we are gonna sit down and go through it, and we do, like literally on this,
Yeah.
hey, these two guys are like, really, she wants me to, line by line, and we're just gonna go through and,
Here are all the notes,
right, and then
see what we can do.
we will draft it, so please know, if, by all means, if there's some omission or something, like, we're doing the best that we can when we get the feedback, cause it can be cumbersome to do the line by line, but we wanna do it.
Yeah.
Right? We wanna
So
do
you're
the work.
requesting feedback by,
A certain date, which
Yep.
I will send out by email today, and likely what I will do is give you this weekend and next weekend.
and then we all commit to respond, even if we have no comments, response will be no. So
Oh, okay.
you specifically hear from everybody.
Sure,
Either
and if
your
I don't
comments
hear
or-
from you, I'm going
Well,
to
you will hear
presume,
from everybody.
okay,
If they don't even have any comments, that's gonna be our response. I have no comments
okay,
on the existing draft.
okay, great,
Just
I
so
have a
you know,
question.
you can check everybody off.
okay,
I just have one question. I totally understand the efficiency of doing everything through email and sending everything ahead of time for suggestions. My one tiny concern is then we get to the meeting and it seems like, well, if you didn't send in your comments, we don't wanna have a discussion and waste everyone's time. My problem with that is, I prefer to hear what the other committee members are suggesting. And so, and if I disagree with one of those suggestions, I would like to be able to have that discussion, but I am missing out on that piece as a member here, as well as a trustee, on hearing what people are suggesting by this method. Oh, so I don't know what the solution is.
I have a suggestion.
Okay,
Well, when you send comments to me, and I think this is a great point, because this is something that I actually thought about when I had gotten the comments from both you and
Right.
Pete the last time. and I specifically, like, in the memo, you'll notice that I wrote that the two of you provided comments, cause I was like, well, if I'm them,
Yes.
I wanna know who's providing the comments. So one of the thing, and I didn't, so this is good. One of the things I was considering was, well, if this is the comments, you know, I could just bundle that quick in a PDF and shoot it off to you, and then we're gonna do our job regardless and come back to you with the draft. And then if there is something that comes up that is a policy decision for you guys to talk about at the next meeting, you can. But you'll be working off of at least a draft that we've put out to start that discussion.
And I think it's important too, I had this question, I think I sent it to Bart, because if, it's almost like we're conducting business outside of the public, so that document, if possible, then it would at least be a public document to show
Oh, sure.
what the decision makers were suggesting. I just wanna be cautious that we're not heading down that path of doing things all ahead of the meeting, and then when we get to the meeting, we're adopting a document, which I felt like today somewhat, but I understand we've done this, you know, had a few discussions already. So I just wanted to say that I don't wanna go down the path of doing everything ahead of time to make meetings short, and then devoiding myself as a representative and potentially the public of hearing what our fellow, you know, committee members are thinking, so.
I think a markup, which has been your practice,
Yeah, I think.
is a good way to
Yeah, I like
avoid
that.
sneaking, I mean, you know,
Mhm.
inadvertent changing of things without making note of it.
Well, and we have no interest in hiding anything.
No.
You know,
No.
we do is-
Exactly.
You know, I'm like, if you guys want, they're great, you know,
But
it
we
works.
could publish the comments that you get from the
We
various.
could just copy all.
Yeah.
I don't think you
With
can,
our-
No, cause then
Can't
that's
do
a
that.
clause, we're an open meeting violation.
Right.
that's
What's
like
that?
Oh, because of
deliberating.
it.
I'll just send it,
Private.
I'm just sending it to you once it's compiled
Oh.
and
okay.
saying, here's what all the comments were. And then when you get a packet, you'll get a draft that the staff has worked on and that, you know, we're putting forth.
And when
then-
you send that out, you're not expecting, and you don't want people to start deliberating over email.
No,
Just
no,
be cautious.
right, and I was, after the meeting concluded, I was just gonna have a quick follow on it.
Yes. I guess, no, cause I struggle with the same thing, is
Yeah.
I feel like people put lots of time into considering, documents, and then there's disagreement of whether that's a substantive change, a policy change, and then we get stuck. So I definitely wanna find a more efficient way to, it's not about making it short or cutting out steps,
No.
it's really just about, finding a system, a process that we can all participate in and keep moving forward at a reasonable
Absolutely.
pace and a clear one, you know, so, I mean, one thing I thought of is numbering the drafts too, that when something has been, you know, it's
Or dating.
draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, so that we can keep track of it, because that's, we lost track of today, it was like, oh, we have looked at this 4 times, you know, so that does reflect 4 opportunities for input and, you know, is that sufficient, you know, are we there yet, that kind of thing. And that's the thing, if we start with taking things out, it's hard to put them back in, keep track to put them back in, so, that's the one thing today that I think would be helpful to hear if we're gonna remove things that we're in agreement that they need to be reviewed at this, they need to be removed at this time, and then you're clear to go on that level. But if we're not in agreement, then we have to come back to it, you know, next meeting. Does that make sense? But once it's out, then it's hard to remember that it's out and put it back in.
You mean
So, you know,
points or
we
whole sections
we
or
can
what?
save drafts, but what I would, because you guys look at documents for months.
Exactly.
I mean, the efficiency on it is, it becomes challenging, and I will tell you, on
Yes.
these drafts,
Yes.
it becomes very challenging because there's so much markup by the time you
Yes.
actually go to read the
It's all
document.
red.
I
It's
have
a challenge to get through, and I'm
I
just,
have a hard time reading it.
and I'm just sharing that because I don't think I can work that
Yes.
with everything on it, but by all means, we can save different drafts. I need to because I need to keep it straight. So, you know, whatever we do from a staff perspective, and we talked about this just in terms of how we save information so that the 3 of us all have the same stuff that we can access all the times, we'll be doing that.
Well, if it
Um,
works for you, it's probably gonna work for us too.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's too, I mean, remember, you're one committee out of a number that we
15.
respond to, so I can remember a lot of numbers from the budget, but I'm not that good to remember every single, right?
Yeah.
Cause I'm just human.
Yeah.
So I need to create a record for myself that I can reflect back on. So I'm happy to share whatever that is. And please know that it's not for, for me being prepared coming into a meeting as your executive director is a way for me to prepare accordingly. So that when you, ideally, when we're in this room, you're providing direction and it matters of policy so that I can move forward. Or in that case, we can move forward. So whatever we do leading up to that, I'm happy to share. But I do know that you have a number of things that you need to get to. So my attempt at trying to gather the comments in between time is because we as a community, we can't lose the month.
Yes.
Because right now, I kind of feel it's, I'll use what my mom always says, I kind of feel like I'm cleaning up the room. Like I need to clean up my room before I can, go buy new clothes or whatever. So I just wanna be efficient with how we do that because there's other tackles, that you guys have to, other priorities and things. You haven't even gotten to the point of prioritizing which things we're gonna work on first.
Yep.
So next time, I will send out all the comments. You'll all get them. Please don't respond, to the group. If you do have a question, please respond directly to me. And if it's something that should be shared with the group, I will push that to the entire group, just for observing, open meetings laws and making sure that that's consistent. I think that'd be great. And thanks for bringing it up, because it is. I sat back and I was like, I wonder if they wanna see all this. I wonder if they don't. So this is our process of working and learning together as I work for you.
Okay. Any other direction you need? On that end?
Nope, that's it.
So, with trustee Rozak wanting to, you've mentioned like 6 things you wanna remove, or you think we should remove, would it make sense to go over those now, so that was my, I heard
Sure.
6 things that you wanna remove, I'd love to hear what they are, I mean, the public art was obvious, but.
I'm okay with waiting, if I think Rebecca said we can send the comments and then she'll send out to everyone what people suggested, is that?
I'm open either way. I just wanna be cognizant also of your time, because I know that all of you are
It's better
leaving.
to aggregate the comments
Based on this.
based
So,
on this, have them sent out, people can see them.
so we're
right?
just
Okay.
giving direction now to get comments. So yes, direction is take our comments
Come back to us with.
And
with an
then
aggregate,
discuss.
and then we can discuss
Yeah.
which comments we wanna implement and which we don't
We
agree on.
agree.
Are we